GLS 103.5 online and entertaining you with the latest news, live interviews, music, and much more. There is hope for the elderly at Unforgettable Twilight Years. Now open in Valencia. Clean and hygienic, caring and committed staff, monthly field trips, monthly massages, indoor activities, hourly, daily, and weekend care. Give us a call today on 795-8424 or 390-5457. Unforgettable Twilight Years. It's home away from home.
Quick message to all those other stations out there. Caught you listening again.
Hey, you're listening to JLS 103.5 online radio station.
It has become mandatory for persons to wear a face mask when in public in Trinidad and Tobago or face a fine. The virus that causes COVID-19 is mainly transmitted through droplets generated when an infected person coughs, sneezes, or exhales. You can be infected by breathing in the virus if you are within close proximity of someone who has COVID-19 or by touching a contaminated surface and then your eyes, nose, or mouth. GLS 103.5 urges you, let us all work together to help stop the spread of this deadly virus. Please wear your face mask, sanitize, and keep social distancing. It's easy as 1, 2, 3 finding a company that excels in electrical, plumbing, AC installation and repairs, painting, and much more. SAS Electrical is here for you, giving you excellent service, great rates, timely completion. Contact SAS Electrical at 709-9215 or 359-1014. Call us today. SAS Electrical. Streaming live on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and more. GLS 103.5 out of Tobago.
My name is DJ Talks from Ghana, and I love listening to GLS Radio 103.5. GLS Radio, Yedawase.
GLS Radio Online 103.5 Katy Street, Buku, Tobago. Sundays 5 to 7 p.m. Tobago Local Talent Blast. New local artists, features, interviews, local music, discovering entrepreneurs, local cultural icons with Sister G and Kisia, DJs, NT, and most supreme Godfrey Marie. Each and every Sunday, GLS Online Radio 103.5. Just sign in GLS Online. Yeah, you're inside with over 65,000 viewers worldwide and growing. The new voice of Tobago's culture is here. GLS Radio. Join in the fun. Every Sunday, 7 p.m., the hottest DJ since sliced bread, DJ Scorpion. Sunday School. Every Sunday on GLS Radio 103.5.
GLS 103.5, the talk of the tongue, the talk of Tobago. Lock it and leave it.
COVID-19 restrictions are still in effect. Wear your face mask, continue to social distance, and stay at home unless it's absolutely necessary. A message from GLS 103.5.
GLS 1035, pumping great music, interviews, supporting local culture, shout-outs, and much more. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. Keep it alive with GLS 103.5 Tobago. Urban LJS Mini Day Spa presents a Mother's Day Fun Week from 1st to 10th May 2021. Basic pedicure $100, spa pedicure $200, gel nail overlay $200, full body massage $300, basic manicure $70, spa manicure $120. And get this, with any service, collect a 10% discount voucher for next visit. Give them a call 757-7638 or 233-8666. Check them out on Facebook. Urban LJS Mini Day Spa, Great and Shelbourne Streets, Plymouth, Tobago. Mom is our special gift. Cherish every moment. Every moment. Every moment.
Yes, good afternoon. Welcome to GLS Online Radio. We are here with Mr. Anthony James once again. It's a beautiful, beautiful Thursday afternoon as we right here inside Tobago, our own land, as we should call it. Alright, it is such a great pleasure this afternoon to be in your midst this afternoon. Alright, invite a friend, tell a friend. It's all happening right here on GLS Online Radio. So as we inside, let's just give you some music and tell Mr. Anthony he's already here. So I just suggest make sure that we are in with the program and everything is by blessing of God.
Darkness, my
Once again, welcome to GLS Online Radio. We're right here with Mr. Anthony James this afternoon. It is such a great afternoon. Yesterday, I know it had a lot of rain. Not yesterday, I should say Tuesday. I had a lot of people looking for the program on Tuesday, but we were unable to go live because of that. Welcome to GLS 103.5 Online Tobago. You can send your comments to the screen. We will see all your comments, and don't forget you can also send your comments on Mr. James' screen as well. Alright, but once you send on GLS Online Radio, we're quicker to see your comment. We will be able to read your comments. Alright, it's not most time is when the program is over, Mr. James may have a chance to check his comment. Good afternoon to you, Mr. Anthony James, and how are you?
Very pleasant afternoon into evening.
Yes, it's our word you're always using.
That's when you ask me how I am. So you have to ask me how I am.
How are you this afternoon?
I'm always respond optimistic.
Optimistic. A lady and all said she just fall in like with that. She said she like all that tease about it. Hey, good afternoon to Space Siders I speaking here. They always locked in and tune in to hear what you have to offer. Alright. Yes, go ahead.
Well, all of Tobago should be tuned in.
Of course, of course.
And in fact, all of Trinidad.
Yes.
What I have to say, generally speaking, will affect all of Tobago and Trinidad. Okay. That's the fact of the matter, because the mighty hand of God has stepped into the story of Tobago, and in fact he has stepped into the story of Trinidad also, because Tobago and Trinidad are linked in relationship. So the matters I'm dealing with will concern everyone. But certainly the hand of God has stepped in and is in fact the mighty hand of God. And it reminds me of a song written by Culture and sung by Culture, that Jamaican reggae, if I may delve into that. And he says that Binky man threw one stone.
Yes.
And it
So
bring
true.
a bad feeling to all wicked man.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
You wouldn't believe down to Sunday I played that same song there.
That's what I mean. Right? So Binky man threw one stone.
Yes.
The Father in heaven, the Savior, has thrown one stone,
Yes.
and he has scattered the pigeons, the mice, so to speak, has been, what is it? The mouse has been let loose among the pigeons, and they're all scattered and confused. In another song, he says, I see my friend Kenneth Thomas is watching, and also Carrie Sebro is watching. I thank you for tuning in, and let me just give you a wave one time there. He says, let God arise and let his enemies be scattered.
Yes.
And right now the enemies are scattered as God has arisen. And the beauty of it, as we used to see, is that there's nothing that they can do.
So true.
We see the mighty hand of God. I've been preaching constitutional reform for years now. And I want to give a lifetime to build up and so on. For years now I've been preaching constitutional reform. We all know that in Tobago we have been suffering for 400 years. We know that. We know that the system between Tobago and Trinidad is not one where Tobago is free. We have recently the Joint Select Committee of PNM and UNC, let's say, the Joint Select Committee of Trinidad, we know that is what it is. And the Tobagonians amongst them are subordinate and following them. even to the extent of Tobago here. You have Tobagonians, individuals, and at party levels, I should say, following Trinidad and being faithful to Trinidad. In fact, this is a stage in our lives in Tobago where all of Tobago should be galvanized together in unity, in harmony. You know, I mean, with one mantra of freedom. You know, I look, Dr. Murray, at the fact that how united Trinidad is, where Tobago is concerned. Have you recognized that?
Yes.
Fellow Tobagoans, you're watching me on my live here. The live has not yet built up on GLS, but on my screen here, the live is building.
Yes.
And, you know, let us look at how united Trinidad is against Tobago. We see the evidence at this time with the Joint Select Committee, how both the PNM and the UNC, and what is the PNM? Apart from the PNM being led and controlled by what people call a 1%, in fact they have called themselves 1%, it includes Syrians and Chinese and Indians and so on there, but they are the ones that really control the PNM. But the large mass of people that are called PNM are the Africans in Trinidad, and they consider themselves to be a political party, and they have come all the way from Africa. So PNM really is Afro-Trinidad, African Trinidad. Because that's the history. They came from Africa. And the UNC largely are Indo-Asian Trinidad, sorry. That's the fact of the matter. In Tobago here, you have an African population who have also come from Africa. And that's the story. And the British brought us under one control, one constitution, one jurisdiction. And here we are today. The responsibility is on us now, and not Britain now, to work this out and to properly constitute ourselves. You know what I mean? The mantle has fallen upon us to do this, to work this out. So Trinidad would have benefited from a colonial decision by the British in the late 19th century. Right? The late 19th century. 1889. Trinidad would have benefited from that. And whilst they have had their freedom, they want to enslave the Tobagonian, and they have no problem with that. And there are people in Tobago who follow them blindly. But God is now putting an end to that. But my partner Pete Pollard came into the office earlier this week, and we were speaking how united Trinidad were against Tobago. And he went back to the scripture. He said, because we always have to be able to type it back to the word. And he reminded me of the scripture with the Pharisees and the Sadducees. They were all united. They were opposed to each other. The Pharisees, for those who know the scriptures, the Pharisees and the Sadducees, they were against each other, just as the PNM and the UNC are in a mad fight, and it is hostile, you know. When you look at many people, the lives they do, even in Tobago here, because there are many people in Tobago here who are against PNM and find themselves supporting UNC. It's amazing, really. I find that really, really amazing. And the fight is hostile, and it is nasty. And you wonder how you can build a proper civilization with that level of hostility and insensitivity, when we are at a stage when we should be showing magnanimity and real leadership and class statesmanship. We should be displaying at this point in time, because what is to be and will be. You feel what I'm saying? Afro-Trinidad, they are Afro-Trinidad and will always be. Indo-Trinidad, and that's what it will always be. Tobagonians are Tobagonians. That's the reality. But it's to find a way of peaceful, just coexistence where every entity must be able to fulfill its potential. There's nothing wrong with that. But there's a high level of angst, of anxiety and discomfort. So Mr. Pollard was saying that the Pharisees and the Sadducees, they hated each other. They're different sects. In Trinidad now, the UNC and the PNM are bitterly against each other, and they all want to be in power to dominate everything, not to help the other. You see, it's the spirit that they have inherited from all the wars, the colonial wars fought down here, and in particularly the British Constitution, or the British way of dominance. It's a constitution of winner takes all, of dominance. But we who have come here in vulnerability, and we are now looking for opportunity. We should be having a system here of love and harmony and peace, understanding where we have come from, and trying to harmonize and blessing each other and pleasing God and making God happy by partnering. They call that in political terms partnering, when different ethnicities, different nations, nationalities come together and partner each other. In political terms, they call that federalism.
Okay.
So we should be federating and assisting each other, building each other.
Right.
But we find ourselves here
Fighting among
inheriting the culture, the spirit of the British Constitution, and what they have left back here of fighting and trying to dominate. So indeed, Trinidad has a constitution called Trinidad and Tobago, one of dominance where the winner takes all, one of greed. The constitution for a society of multiple ethnicities, a constitution like that, where winner takes all, is always bound to promote greed. Because it's only when you are in power now, you believe that yourself, you are independent, your ethnicity, your group of people are now independent, only when you're in power. So even as you see people celebrating independence, when the Africans are in power, that's the only time they feel that they have independence. We need to work it out. I'm a draft player,
Yes,
and I'm able to work out the draft. The Indians right now, they feel as though they have no independence because they're out of power, and they are cursing, rolling, nasty and stink. That is what is going on in Trinidad, man, and it is seeping in, and it is seeping into Tobago too.
Simply
So how do you really? Oh, Trinidad is not a nation. It is clear. You have Indians on one side, and they are bitterly against the Africans on the other side. The Indians are represented largely as UNC, and they are right as far as I'm concerned. And Kamala Persad-Bissessar could never be wrong. The corrupt government that ruled Trinidad, the most corrupt in the history perhaps in the world, between 2010 and 2015, where people become multimillionaires in 3-4 years and so on. Nothing wrong with that. They are right. For the African people who are supporting PNM, they are always right. In Tobago, in all of it, Tobago has no power. So Tobago found itself now, in the absence of Robinson, find itself supporting PNM, and some decided supporting UNC. When Tobago ought to be looking after its own self.
So true.
You know what I'm saying? So let us go back to the scripture, because Mr. Pollard advised me we must always be able to type it back to the scripture. Yeah. So the UNC, the Joint Select Committee come up here. And let's be bold. Both the PNM and the UNC, they were united against Tobago. And they spoke down to all the Tobagonians who appeared before them. And they said no to any kind of freedom for Tobago. They said no. Yeah, all they take little of this, and we will give all a little percentage and so on. Right. Give us control. We will remain with sovereign control over Tobago and Trinidad, and we will have sovereign control over the resources. That's the fact of the matter. James not lying. James don't lie. James telling the truth here. And Tobagonians have not prospered in this year. It's all about Trinidad. It's all about Trinidad. And they're united. It's not the first time, because I walk with a document here to show you how they have united before. And Mr. Manning had warned Kamala Persad-Bissessar that they must unite against Tobago. So it's not strange when Alwari and all the rest of them on the UNC side came up here, and the language they spoke, and how Alwari tried to fool the Tobagonians there concerning the exclusive economic zone, and if you have delimitation, what will happen? How Trinidad, when he said we is Trinidad, Tobago is not going to lose anything. In fact, Tobago gains everything, not by the delimitation in the bill there, because that's another Martin again, which I'll explain. But let me bring home a point. The PNM and UNC against each other, but where Tobago is concerned, they're united.
Yes.
The Pharisees and the Sadducees were against each other, but against Jesus, against the truth, they were united.
Okay.
The Pharisees and the Sadducees were bitterly against each other. But where Jesus Christ is concerned, they united against him. And they eventually killed him. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
The PNM and the UNC, Afro Trinidad and Indo Trinidad, are bitterly against each other. And really, I think because Trinidad has no leader. No leader has really emerged in Trinidad accepting humanity, accepting the diversities, accepting God really. Because God is the one who created the beauty of diversity. God made African ethnicity. He made the Asian ethnicity that can be divided into Indians, Pakistanis, Chinese, and it's all lovely and beautiful. As Morgan Job used to say, see God in every face and not race, because God never created different race. God is not a different race. There is one God, and he made one humanity with different expressions, and of course, created in his own image and his own likeness. You know what I mean? In all beauty, God is a God of taste and style. So he couldn't make people of one ethnicity. He made people with different ethnicities to his own honor and glory. And we need to see the beauty in each other. So you have people of different cultures and so on. Tobagonians ought to see the beauty of Trinidad culture. Trinidadians ought to see the beauty of Tobagonian culture and respect each other and work in harmony. But here we are today with the devil's spirit, where Trinidad wants to dominate all of Tobago. Let me say good evening to Kester Lindo, and also pleasant evening to Lady Mac. And all you here on my live, let me just acknowledge them. Carrie Sebro, Kenneth Thomas, they were early on. Gary Cordner, Royal B. Rachel, thank you. Vin McPherson, Joanne Cummings, and Janice Wilson, Felix, that's my cousin out of Trinidad there. Aquino Mackenzie, thank you for joining us. Lawrence Hislop, there, Mahadio, didn't quite like it right. Ruben Andrews, David Solomon, they are all watching, and thank you for joining me here. And this evening, I promise I will speak the truth here this evening. Pleasant evening to Sean Lovelace and Karen Moore. Good evening. Yes, I was making the point, because some of you might have now joined, that Trinidad, you will observe the evidence is there in the joint. What is the Joint Select Committee of the Trinidad Parliament? The Trinidad Parliament is split between Africa and India. And they call that government and opposition, and they call that party even. So you have all the Africans in one block, primarily one block of people who are seeking to defend themselves, because life really is about self-representation and a defense of the self. People look to survive. So you look to preserve yourself. They call it self-defense. If a man comes to kill you, you look to defend yourself instinctively. You look to defend yourself. And likewise the Indians. You know, so Trinidad is united against Tobago. The PNM and the UNC, Africa and India, they are united. And you wonder, why should Trinidad be united against Tobago? Tobago has not done Trinidad any wrong. Elmi Davis says, pleasant afternoon, Mr. James, good afternoon, pleasant evening to you too. Tobago has not wronged Trinidad. Tobago has never been in power. In the construct of Tobago and Trinidad, Tobago has not been in power. So you have Trinidad having its right, but at the same time trying to deny Tobagonian rights, that a right that Trinidadian fought for, not Tobagonian right, but they fought for their right to self-determine. And all the peoples in the Caribbean who came and dwelt in islands in large groups, in Barbados, St. Vincent, St. Lucia, Jamaica, Cuba, all are wrong. people search for their rights to govern themselves, because this entire new world down here is a new world of colonization, you know. You feel what I'm saying? Of slavery and colonization from we call here the Americas, and the fight was on really for self-determination. You know, the British people never fought for self-determination. Self-determination is a natural human right by God. God make people to determine their own destiny. That's something natural within the human being. To fight for survival, to fight for the self, to actualize from the moment you're born, you want to be. You know what I'm saying? It takes me back to the scripture. So when Jesus Christ was about to lay down his life for the world, he said, go to prepare a place for you.
Yes.
Not a physical place. So some people construe that he go in and prepare mansions. He never said that. He said because there are many mansions. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
He didn't say he go in and make mansions. He said there are.
Many mansions.
And if it were not so, I would have told you it's a metaphorical statement. He said, go to prepare a place to make a way for you, that where I am, the verb to be, the verb to be, the verb to be. Because life is all about being. The verb to be, so that where I am, you may be. He was talking about the to be. He was talking about a status, because man had fallen. So he was now going to the grave to take the sins of the world, to pay for the sins of the world, so that man can now be redeemed and get back to the image and likeness that they were created in, because they fell in the garden. The verb to be. And this is what life is all about. So when God looked to, he sent Moses into Egypt. The name that he uses, I am. Moses said, these gods in Egypt have many names. They will ask, what is your name? If I say God, send them. They just ask, what is the name of your God? So God told him, tell him my name is I am. He used no other name. Because you see, the idea of coming out, when you're in slavery, you're not yourself.
So true. So true.
You aren't. Slavery renders you into nothing. You are not. Only when you're free, you are.
Yes.
If you're in bondage, you are not. But when you're in freedom, you have come into being. So God telling me, say, I am sending you.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
And in the time of Jesus Christ, now when he was about, now, you see, when he was about to free Israel, he used the verb, again, the verb to be, I am. When he was about to free the world, he said that, so that where I am, you may be also. And so that Tobagonians now must come in to being, because we are not. And they treat us as though we are not. So God is saying now, it is time for the Tobagonians to come out of bondage. It is time for the Tobagonians to be. And we need to be faithful to our own being, because the time has come for us to be. The time has come for us to be, and we must be faithful to our own cause. And if Trinidad can unite against Tobago to keep Tobagonians in not, to keep Tobagonians in a state where Tobagonians are not, why is it that we faithful to Trinidad and Tobago? Because many people in Tobago are supporting PNM, which is a Trinidad organization, and they are supporting UNC, which is a Trinidad organization. But here it is, that the UNC and the PNM united in their joint select committee to tell Tobagonians you should have no right. And they were resilient and resolute and forthright with it, you know. Unashamedly, you know. Such a thought has no place in the world, really. Such thought is illegal. You can't have a parliament in the world today that enslaves a people. That's not the purpose of a parliament. The purpose of a parliament is to free and to secure the rights of people, to secure, to preserve, and to advocate and to defend the rights of a people. Come on, my fellow Tobagonians. But you have a constitution today that says who wins Trinidad, Tobago is yours. Tobago is Lanyap. And Tobagonians have not reached potential, can't fulfill potential. So no matter how much sex and reproductive sex takes place amongst Tobagonians, the population is only about 60 to 70,000 people of Tobagonians here. We have lost our population to Trinidad and beyond. It's not that we were not having sex. And when you have sex in Tobago and you reproduce, you are reproducing a person to be subordinate to somebody in Trinidad. So the Trinidadians who are having sex today and making children today are making masters for those who have sex in Tobago and produce their children. How can we have that? How can we rate the sexual pleasure of Trinidadians above the sexual pleasure of Tobagonians? How can we? I'm bringing it home. How can we? You can't have that. And you're having people coming forward with all sorts of crazy theories. Yes. David says, Mr. James, I love the way you tie in the scripture with your explanation. It's all you must tie it back to the word of God. Well, that's the beginning. Good evening to everyone. Bianna Byron says, very pleasant evening, afternoon to all of you, wherever you are. You see? So how can we prescribe? Because you have people in Tobago who have prescribed. They wrote Bill A and they wrote Bill B. Prescription. And they made a prescription. They prescribed that Tobagonians will be subordinate to Trinidad. And when you speak that boldly and freely, there are people who are against you. They say you're disrespectful.
So true. So
They say I am disrespectful for calling out the guilty. I did not use harsh words, but it is incumbent on me to speak the truth. How else? It's only the truth that can make us free. There are advocates in Tobago now who are now irrelevant and should really be saying nothing. They should shut up really because they cannot contribute to where we need to go. They are actually proposing the opposite. Now, anybody with sense, you will know that after 40 years, Israel left the wilderness to become independent. They will know that. Into a land overflowing with milk and honey. And it cannot be a coincidence that similarly here, after 40 years of this House Assembly, God has shut it down. It is God that has shut it down.
So true.
There's no one else. It's the mighty hand of God.
That shut that down.
It has shut it down and prevents it from being reconstituted. Because God is saying you have the attitude, the remnants of what you inherited from bondage from Egypt. In this case here, from Trinidad, the bondage we have been in. And you have that now residing in the House Assembly. God is saying now it's time to cleanse. It is time to purge. And so that he is now carrying us through. Right now we don't know that, many of us don't know. But I'm telling you, right now we are being baptized. We are being rinsed right now with all this process that is going on, all this discussion. It is to leave the bondage behind. It is to leave Trinidad behind. It is to go through the river and settle in our minds, to mentally relocate, to psychologically relocate, to spiritually relocate in a mind of independence, not in a mind of dependence. Every tub must sit on its own bottom. And every man got to stand on his own 2 feet.
Correct. Correct.
Dr. Wilson Maurice say to Tobago, he said, take up your bed and walk.
Yes.
And this is what we must do. Take up our bed and walk. This has nothing to do with UNC. Nothing. This has nothing to do with PNM. Nothing. In fact, it has to do with the will of God and the purpose of God. If you accept God and you accept that after 40 years the wilderness has been closed down, then you accept that it is God who has done this. Yes. And you must know that it's God who is taking us now to our promised land of independence without participation from Trinidad.
Yes.
we ought to understand that this is God's doing. And if God is going to take us over, then he has already seen us there, because he knows the end from the beginning.
Yes.
And the beginning from the end, because he exists through eternity. Yes. So God has seen a Tobago in a land of independence prospering. Otherwise, he would not have taken us there. God has already seen us, fellow Tobagonians, in our land of promise, prospering. And he has already prepared. It's similar to the story of Israel there. Those who had occupied the land of Canaan, they had built it up, and they had large pomegranate trees and all these things there waiting. In fact, the children of Israel sent out spies to spy out the land. Right. The land was already prepared. The riches were already prepared. And they said, truly the land does overflow with milk and honey. Yes. But they said, we are not in their fallen state. They said, but we are not able to possess the land. There are Tobagonians there today who are saying that we are not able to possess the land. They are saying that truly the land does overflow with milk and honey, but we are not able. They say we are grasshoppers in their sight. And in our side too. They are thinking now that Trinidad will defeat them. But they forget that it's God who has brought us out. Exactly. And it is God who is carrying us through.
So true.
The children of Israel forget that it was God who took them through the Red Sea. And Pharaoh's horsemen and his chariots drowned in the churning sea. They forgot. They forgot that it's God who brought us out till the house assembly was restored. And he is now saying, only the independent people, only an independent Tobago now must now be constituted. Tobagonians have seen for years. They have seen Petro-Canada. They have seen Centrica come into our waters. And they are drilling oil. We have seen that the fishermen were blocked from fishing. We have seen all of that. And we are still saying we can't make it. We have seen when Dr. Rowley came into office, 3 months after he came into office, on the 9th of May, I think it was in 2015, 3 months after, the government announced that BHP Billiton will be looking for oil. Once they say they're looking for oil, they know it's there. They're looking for oil north of Tobago. 3 months later, like 6 months into his government, they found the oil, but they changed the language. Oh. They said they found it North Trinidad and Tobago.
Yes.
For what I'm saying. So we are saying God has prepared. It is God, Yeah. God has prepared the land of independence, the land of promise for his people, for his special people in Tobago. Tobagonians are God-fearing people. We are not perfect. We try, but we are a God-fearing people. And we have seen God. Which other nation have you seen in this world in this modern time that you see the big mighty presence, the love and the grace of God intervene after 40 years? It must be God.
Yes.
And he has intervened into the story now to lift us up. Because in this world here, we see the attitude. Had this been left up to Trinidad, Tobagonians will never be free. We saw it in the Joint Select Committee. Yeah. That's the message. Had this been up to the arm of flesh, Tobagonians not being free at all. But hear what God has done. He has shut down the system. He has destroyed the constitution of Trinidad and Tobago.
Yes.
The fact that the House Assembly Act cannot constitute the House Assembly anymore, God has shut it down. He has shut down the constitution. And the next step is constitutional reform. That's the discussion we are having now. Yes. We are discussing constitutional reform, not an amendment of the Trinidad Constitution, no.
Yes.
We are discussing constitutional. The form must change because the form before is slavery. What the Tobagonians who submitted Bill A and Bill B to Trinidad was to amend the Trinidad Constitution as we are part of Trinidad. I'm not a Trinidadian. The time has come for me to be as a Tobagonian, I'm saying. Yes. So he was telling Moses to tell Pharaoh to let my people go. And he's saying today to Trinidad to let Tobagonians go so that they may serve me. Yeah. Are you with me? Yeah. That's what he's saying. Cranmore said, the people are afraid of the unknown. We need to walk by faith and not by sight.
Yes.
Yeah, but if we see God, God will not leave us alone. Trinidad can't do Tobago anything now. So I was saying, he has set the resources there already. The resources are set, And Tobagonians are there with our 70,000 population, of which the adult population in Tobago is just about 30-something to 40-something thousand people. Now, if you quantify, if you monetize and quantify the large resources of Tobago from just some oil and gas alone, and you divide it by all the adults in Tobago here, look at where we are. is milk and honey. This is a fact. These are proven resources. So Al-Wari is saying, no, you can't go. Do not delimit. Do not as much as identify. Do not. He's in danger. And he's saying, he means Trinidad. Because remember, Al-Wari cannot represent Tobago. So Tobago is not included in that we. That we he is speaking of, fellow Tobagonians. It is them.
Trinidad.
So he's saying they will lose 2/3 of the marine resources. He really means Trinidad will lose 2/3. What he's really saying is that Tobago brings at least 2/3 of the marine resources to Trinidad. That's what he's saying. And then you have a sick mind in Tobago. Forgive me, I don't mean to insult anybody. He's saying, ask for a percentage. Is Tobago a percentage of Trinidad? Is Tobago a percentage of Tobago, really? Where you have budget by percentage. How do you forecast that? How do you forecast the level of production in Tobago and the level of production in Trinidad in one fiscal year and decide you're going to bring the level of production together? The derivative of that, the monetary derivative of that, and say, all right, Tobago, this is yours, and Trinidad, this is yours. That can't happen. There's no way to work that out. And that kind of prescription can only bring about sluggishness in Tobago. Because according to the design of God who designed us, he says, as a man sow, so shall he reap. That is speaking about action and investment. So by your faith, you sow. And you can't sow corn and want to reap peas. So Tobagonians have to get into sowing. You can't run a budget that and a politics that whether you sow or not, 6.8 is yours. So the next person will say, well, give me 8. So whether you sow or not, 8% is yours. Something is wrong with that. And this is why in 1998, when bought Mr. Charles, people don't like me to talk about it because some people have Charles up as a big man. Really, I respect him for what he has done. But I'm saying politically, Mr. Charles is weak. I have no apologies for saying that. Ideologically, philosophically, he cannot work out this draft. You can't tell me that whether I sow or not, 8% is mine, 9% is mine, 10%. Man. That's stupidity. And leave somebody else with the control. That's madness. That's not good draft. You cannot play draft. If you come up against me on a draft board, I will beat you every day. That's not good draft.
So true.
I never play chess. But if I get into chess, it'll be the same thing because the principle is the same.
It's the same thing, yes.
And so the Joint Select Committee come up here and made a mockery of the Tobagonians who appeared before them. Because they were not able to play the draft. You know what I'm saying?
Just permit me one moment. Let me just do some quick shout out and you'll take the comments on the screen. I'd like to say good afternoon to Pete Pollard on WhatsApp, locked on, and he's waving to you there. Good evening. And also like to say good afternoon to Linda. Good afternoon to the Braffett family. Say they're hearing you loud and clear from Bon Accord. Good afternoon to the people in Patience. Good afternoon. Whoa, a lot of people is on WhatsApp here sending good evening to each and every one of you all. Yes, we are here with Mr. Anthony James every Thursday afternoon. Yes, Mr. James. And good afternoon to Nicole Pasnell as well.
Yeah, Pasnell, Susan. Susan Hazel Simon, my big supporter from Roxburgh there in Kendall. Jeremiah Johnson is watching. My cousin again. Yeah, so thank all of you. You know what I mean? Elmi Davis says, amen, let us go, we need to be. That's the idea. The idea is to be free. Let my people go. God is not a God of bondage.
So true.
You know what I mean?
So true.
God is not a God of bondage. He come to take us out from bondage, out from darkness into his marvelous light. God has a plan. Nobody can stop him. I'm saying these things because I'm not guessing you. I'm telling you as a matter of fact. This is what is going to happen. So brace yourself. God has crushed Trinidad control over Tobago by what he has done with the 6-6 there. That's what he has done. And nobody can defeat him. He's the undefeated champion. You know?
So true.
For all ages, throughout eternity. God has a plan for Tobago. You can't stop that plan. It is thy will, thy kingdom come, thy will be done right here on earth as it is in heaven.
Yes.
God sets the time when these things are going to happen. So and now is the time, long time this state, not country, because Trinidad and Tobago is not a country. And that's one of the weaknesses, you know. Many people from Tobago, they go before Trinidad making this argument as though we are one country. So they are standing on a wrong platform. If we are one country, then Trinidad has a right to do what it's doing. It is because Tobago and Trinidad are not one country. That is what gives us the right to articulate for our own government. But God has not left it up to Trinidad. He has taken it out from the hands of Trinidad.
Yes.
That's what he has done. The parliament has no jurisdiction over this. The only person as an institution that has a say, and she will have to obey the command of God when God is ready. When this period of baptism is over and God gives the command, the president, who is the one, cannot disobey. Ask Nebuchadnezzar. I wrote her already, you know, and she responded, I shall respond again in due time. When God is ready, and he gave the command now to make the proclamation through parliament that the people of Tobago are sovereign, the people and government of Tobago are now sovereign. That's the next election we'll be having. Trinidad now will have no control. As I've said, this is what is going on. Lock on to me what I'm saying here. We will constitute the executive. We will vote for the head of government. Whatever name you choose. We vote for the head of government. We vote for the legislature. Those are separate elections. Nobody from the legislature can form part of the executive. The chief executive will pick his own cabinet. From there we build the constitution, the nation state of Tobago. We build the judiciary. As we make our laws, very hastily too, as we make our laws, we repeal the laws of Trinidad and Tobago that now exist. The laws of Trinidad and Tobago will continue to exist until they are repealed and replaced. In the meantime, in Trinidad will now have to make their own constitution. Trinidad has no constitution since 1889. Since the fusion of Tobago and Trinidad, since the fusion by Britain to bring the two colonies, their two slave colonies together, because the Trinidadians today, their ancestors had no say in the matter. They had no say. So Britain with colonial power brought the two together, fused the two together according to their will for their own purpose. Since that time, in 1889 to now, there is no entity, no governmental entity named Trinidad. None. So I'm telling you to Tobagonians who feel, well, when God does what he does, you know God does anything and fail. When God does what he does by freeing us, we are out in the blue sea. No, not so at all. Trinidad as an entity owns nothing. I want you to understand that. There is no governmental entity named or known as Trinidad. The institutions that the government of Trinidad and Tobago discriminately, biasly, the institutions, the infrastructure that they built up in Trinidad with Tobago's money, with the money of Trinidad and Tobago, they belong equally to the people of Tobago as they belong to the people of Trinidad. And this is what I'm saying. The only solution here now, as I said, as we go into this period, the next election in Tobago will commence a period of transition. And then we end up together, both Tobago and Trinidad, at a certain destination where the state is now fully broken into two. The state of Tobago. But from the next election, immediately, the principle kicks in. The government of Trinidad and Tobago can do nothing in Tobago except by the permission of the government and people of Tobago. So we are immediately in charge. God had to do it that way. It has to happen sudden. And Tobagonians are just suddenly free, suddenly sovereign in our own story, because this story is ours. Trinidad is not to write the paragraphs for Tobago. Trinidad is not to write the comprehension passage, the passage. They are not to put in the question marks. They are not to put in the semicolons, the exclamation marks. They are not to do writing the colons, no, the semicolons, the commas, the full stops. That's what we to do. Life is a story. This is our story, fellow Tobagonians. And in our story as a nation of people, we have a territory. And this is what APT James said in the parliament. Here's what he said. And it's only because of my association with Dr. Winston Murray, who was a follower of APT James, I was able to understand it. So he said, APT James said in the parliament, he said, we will be what we used to be, self-governing territory. He said, we will be today what we were yesterday. So I put it in a song. I said, we will be what we should be, self-governing territory. Oh yeah, we'll be today. Oh, what we were yesterday. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. So, and the verse from that, to be going and stop fuss and fight. Unite for a better life. We are all family. Let we dwell in harmony. Yeah, this in 1889, our fathers groaned, broke down and cried, an intrusion on their pride. Their sovereignty further reclined. Now they all died in faith, knowing one day our rights will retake. Get rid of all the hate. Come together and celebrate. Yes. We will be.
Yes, yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Like
that's a big song. I've not yet released it.
You haven't released it yet?
No, I've not yet. Maybe the time has now come.
You had to release that on GLS. You had to release that on GLS.
We will be what we should be. Self-governing territory, oh yeah. We'll be today, oh what we were yesterday. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. You feel what I'm saying? So this is where we are. So we have our own territory. We're not fighting Trinidad for what is Trinidad. We are not that type of people. We are not covetous. We don't want what is Trinidad. But we are simply now taking what is ours. God is now putting into the lap of Tobagonians what is rightfully Tobagonians. Let us cooperate with God. Let us attune our minds to the Spirit. So I'm saying the next period here, after the next election, I assume it will be by the end of the year. This is a nation being born, you know. Sometimes I witness, even on some of the lives, the attacking with Tobago, PNM and PDP right now in a whole mess, fighting and tugging. That's not what we want at this point in time. We need to shed, and God's going to hang the system until all the bitter strife goes out.
Yes.
Tobagonians need to be, we are one family, as Lord Nelson says. Let us dwell together in harmony.
Yes.
Let us think of our purpose as a people. Let us establish a vision for Tobago, because without a vision, a people perish. There is too much division and discord in Tobago and too much false ideas. And it is really the derivative from the pursuance of Trinidad, you know, the pursuance of the enemy, because the enemy has constituencies in Tobago, pockets of support in Tobago that we need to get rid of. We need to unite as Tobago. Trinidad has united against us. We need to bury the hatchet in Tobago and become one and unite as one nation against Trinidad, against the position of Trinidad. We need to unite in our purpose in God, because we have to fight Trinidad, you know, because it is God who is taking us over. God has stepped in. It is God who is fighting this battle. We don't have to curse Trinidad. We're not doing that. What I'm doing here this evening is simply to carve out and point the way forward, as God has mandated me to do, to preach the word of deliverance, to preach the word of Tobagonian salvation, Tobagonian political destiny for God's purpose. And in so doing, I'm saying we constitute the legislature and the executive. We build the constitution from there. Here, what is the future relationship between Tobago and Trinidad? It will be a confederal relationship, not a federal. It's federalism, the principle is there, but it's not the strict federal relationship like exists in America, where you have a central or federal government. There will be no central or federal government here. It cannot be constituted, it cannot be constructive, it can't work. That's where I began at first in my mind. And after years of toiling, I realized God sift me through that and make me to realize that can't work. Because how do you bring two elements together? One has 1.4 million, the other one has 70,000. How do you choose the government there? One country therefore will be choosing the government all along. It can't happen. It cannot happen. It cannot be constructed, and it's not necessary. And for the extent of enslavement, colonization, victimization, discrimination, abuse that Tobago has been through, Tobago needs to be sovereign. There must be no government over Tobago. There can't be any government over Tobago. Tobago must account straight to God. We work out our things, our philosophies amongst ourselves, and we account to God. That is it. So we are able to play our sports and all of that to free up that big sporting industry with all the great sporting talent Tobago has produced over the years, now produce still in, because it's the same DNA, the same genes. We are producing people. And the sportsmen in Tobago must be able to put on Tobagonian national colors and represent the story of Tobago international world, and we show the world what we got. And we establish a godly nation in Tobago. The scripture says, blessed is the nation God is for. And clearly God is for Tobago, because he has stepped in and closed down the wilderness to make us free. Blessed is the nation God is for, and the people he has chosen. And Tobagonians have been chosen by God. God looked down into the story and look at how vulnerable we are. 400 years in bondage and struggling. We are quarreling every day. Subconsciously we know that something is missing. And many of us cannot identify precisely and accurately what that is. But God has stepped in, seen our vulnerability. He promised to help the weak and the downtrodden. The scripture says so. A parliament ought to be a place of justice. But you know what? On the side of the oppressor, there was power. Solomon said, go to the place of justice. And there was no justice there, he said. And he said, you know what? But on the side of the oppressor, there was power. And that's what's going on in Trinidad. So God personally stepped in. He has personally stepped in. And Nebuchadnezzar cannot defeat him. When he is ready, he gives the proclamation. The executive authority of the people of Tobago is vested in the president, not in Rowley's government, not in the Joint Select Committee. Let me say that again. The executive authority of Trinidad and Tobago is vested in the president. Let me delink Trinidad. The executive authority, which we are all born with with our Creator. We are all endowed by our Creator with that inalienable right, which is called the executive authority of the people, is vested in one institution, the president. And when he is ready, the president will have to act in accordance to properly represent the executive authority vested, reposed in her by the people of Tobago. You can't have an office of presidency, an office of executive authority that is exercised where on one hand it is superior than the other. It is not so. That's illegal. That is illegal. That is illegitimate. It is without form and it is void. So when he is ready, Nebuchadnezzar cannot resist his command. Because Nebuchadnezzar will be put out to eat grass for 7 years and tie like a goat in the pasture. Pharaoh's firstborn was smitten and killed, and his horsemen in pursuing drowned in the churning sea. That is the way maker. That is the way maker, miracle worker, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. That is who our God is. So we don't have to worry. Let us focus on how we are going to run Tobago, how we are going to build our constitution, what we should have in our constitution and what we should not, how we are going to constitute our legislature, constitute our executive. Those are the things we should be focused on. Forget about Joint Select Committee. That's a waste of time discourse. Thinking about the executive committee and where the bill see and the bill see. We have no right to appear before that bill. Trinidad is not over us. If we were following the story properly, we would have recognized that it's God who has shut down the system. What they are trying to do is to wake up back a debt covenant, to wake up back Tobago, to enslave Tobago. That is what Dr. Rowley did. in the parliament, he and his cohorts. Because see what? Going back to the word, the scripture says, the woman who has an husband is bound to the law of her husband as long as the husband liveth. But if the husband be dead, she is free from the law. Word. So what God did, he destroyed the constitution. He caused a death of the house assembly. He caused a death of the law so that we can be free. And that's what Jesus Christ did. He took the sins of the world and died so that we can be married to another, even the risen Christ, even the risen Savior. Same thing he said. Word. Except a grain of corn, a grain of wheat, falls into the earth and dies, it abides alone. And Tobago right now abides alone as a shadow under Trinidad with respect to the Trinidad law. So God has caused a death, except a grain of wheat falls into the ground and dies, it abides alone. But if it be dead and buried, it rises in newness with power, with a great body of fruits. And that is what God is doing now. So when we rise again, it is into our promised land, a land of milk and honey, where the fruits are large, and we are able to be, to become the verb to be, the I am, to be. So that where I am, he says, you, Tobagonians, will be also. We will be finally. And I'm telling you, the way we worship in church will change. Because right now we are very tame. We are lackluster. Because of the years of bondage. We should all be looking forward, fellow Tobagonians, to this new dispensation. Let us stop fighting each other. Let us hold fast to the mark of the higher calling. Let us hold fast to true philosophy, because in all the midst of this, there are philosophies contending with the truth, you know. Those who say we should be under Trinidad and call it autonomy and so on, you know that they don't represent us. Because the word really means to represent a man, you know. It is insulting, illegal, illegitimate to make a law and then you are blaming people, you are blaming the slave masters when you had the opportunity to prescribe. And what you prescribe is that Trinidad will still control the economy, and you will ask her how much percent. You have done that. You can't make a law that enslaves. Who gave them the permission to give up my right? Who gave them the permission to say that Trinidad will continue to run security in Tobago? Who did so? We had a brutal murder in Speyside. Was it not last night? With the culture of Trinidad informing it that a hapless man received 6 bullets. Is that Tobagonian culture really? We need Tobagonian culture to bring to bear upon policing and security on the whole in Tobago. We need that. We must inform every policy in every area. We must be a sovereign people, a sovereign. Understand the meaning of the word sovereign. The buck begins with us and stop with us. We are sovereign in our own land. Nobody will respect us if they come into Tobago and recognize that we are not in charge of our story and we are not in charge of the land. If they know that, and they know, and so that they disrespect us. So that right now, and what those who have proposed in their buildings and they build that, is that Tobagonians will continue to be squatters. If you're living in a land and you are not sovereign in the land, if you live in a home and you're not sovereign in the home, you are just merely a resident, a squatter. And as I said the last time I was here, we have to clean up the language in Tobago, the language that we use. And I wish the networks, the news media, will tune in to what I'm saying. We are calling ourselves resident. You know who is a resident? Are we residents in Tobago? We are natives here. We owners. We are owners of Tobago. This land is ours. We are natives. We're not residents. We are the new natives. The first natives were killed out. And we are not sure that the Caribs are the first natives here. You know? We are not sure about that. You know? Because a lot of history now coming up and telling you that Africans were here before. All in the Americas. Archaeologists are now telling you that. But far as we know, we build the cabin here. Bob Marley says, I build a cabin. Who built the cabin? Has there been a greater expenditure of labor than slave labor of Africans any part of the world? It's we who cut down the trees here, build the roads. We build the cabin here. And the land owns the sea and the air. I built the cabin, and I plant the corn. Didn't my people before me slave for these countries? We were in the loins of our forefathers when this cabin was being built. When the corn here was being planted, meaning to say the wealth preparation. We are the cabin builders. We planted the corn. We are the natives here. We are owners. We are not. Don't forget what the Trinidad media have told you. Calling us on the island. I am not on an island, fellow Tobagonians. I want to say from this day forth, if you have listened to me today, change your language. The language we are now speaking is the language of the wilderness, is the language of bondage. We need to speak the language of freedom, the language of possession, the language of ownership, the language of I am, from the verb to be. We need to start referring to Tobago as our country. Trinidad and Tobago is not a country, never was, never will be. Trinidad and Tobago is a state, an illegal state, an illegitimate state, a colonial state, where Tobagonians had no say in the establishment and constitutionalization of the state. How can it be illegal? The Tobagonians decide that we will have a constitution that enslaves us and colonizes us? No. This was brought upon us. This is all part of the colonial experience, my people. So let us reconstitute. Let us reform. Let us be transformed and reformed by the renewing of our minds, by the renewing of our soul, of our spirit, our disposition. We are not on the island. We are in our homeland. And let us refer to Tobago as our homeland. Let us refer to Tobago as our native land. Let us own the land with our language. Let us refer to Tobagonians as our people, our brotherhood, our nation. We are in our country. Change the language. We are not on the island. That is for a people dispossessed. That language is for a people dispossessed. You can refer to another people as being on the island if you want to talk geography or tourism or something like that. But the normal language for normal people is in your country. Britain is a country. Barbados. The only people who refer to themselves as being on the island are Tobagonians. Let us get into a right frame of mind.
Our country.
This is our country. Let's own it.
Yes.
This is a free promotion. Nobody has to promote you. You have control over your own mind and the language that you use. Forget what the media tells you. Or tell you, as the case may be. And speak our own language. Speak our own language. We have control over that. This is our land. This is our country. Tobago is our nation, a unique nation where we can go from any village into a stranger's house, because he's not a stranger, he's a family member, and eat for harvest and receive a drink. There is no other culture in the world like that. We are one family and we are one nation. We have the ingredients of nationhood here. And when we have the opportunity, we will build a great nation because the seeds are already there. We have the culture for that. We just need to clean up. The reason why we are so divided is because of what Trinidad has done. And they have bribed many politicians in Tobago. And you have the politicians running around wild now, trying their best to hold on and to serve Trinidad, because they are doing the bidding of Trinidad. Listening to the programs this morning, Alwari and the Joint Select Committee, they were not careful. They were not careful in trying to serve Tobago. But you listen to some of the speakers this morning, and they were careful. They were careful not to hurt Trinidad, you know. They were careful not to hurt Trinidad because the best proposal, and it is the only proposal, because I've spent a long time in a journey in my mind trying to arrive, and I finally arrived. The best system here for Tobago and Trinidad is where Tobago is independent, Trinidad is independent, and we engage in a confederation with each other. You know, the OECS has that system right here, the Organization of Eastern Caribbean States. Each state is independent, but they have one airline. They set a mutual committee to deal with that. They set a mutual committee to deal with LIAT, one airline. They have one central bank, one currency. All you need is an ID card to run up and down the OECS countries. Freedom of trade, freedom of movement. We can do that here in Tobago and Trinidad. Nobody loses. Nobody loses. This is a win-win situation. Tobago has its own government. Trinidad has its own government. This is a win-win situation. We don't need Trinidad to run anything here for us. So true, Alicia Gonzalez said. So true, we are subservient. Ian Coffey said, so true, bro. Are you with me? And we must be bold enough concerning our own story. Don't shy away from your right. Be bold about the truth of ourselves. Be bold, fellow Tobagonians. Speak freely. Walk freely. We have many land issues here that we are trapped in for generations, for years. There's so much to do. Sometimes I can't really speak all here because some have to be left for when we get into the promised land, because there's a lot of work to do.
Yes.
We are financially trapped, financially enslaved by all the financial institutions. God is now bringing all of that into our hands, into our laps. We can work for each other here and build a Tobago that is worthwhile. Forget our misguided, enslaved faithfulness to Trinidad. Forget that. Trinidad will be our sister or our brother. We will help them in a time of trouble, in a time of need, because that's the godly thing to do. We have all come here in vulnerability. We know that our duty is to love our neighbors, ourselves, and to help each other. Our beginnings, our colonial beginnings here, were in vulnerability. Yeah, that's how we began here. We are to help each other. The whole Caribbean needs, English-speaking Caribbean needs a new shift, a new philosophy, where we are just depending on America, on all the other worlds for vaccine, for solutions, for economic solutions. Is all nonsense, you know. We need to lead the world in thought. The West Indies cricket team is to lead the world. We need to lead the world in philosophy and in thought. We need to do that. We need to be bringing solutions to the world, not waiting for things to happen, not waiting for the outside world to send solutions for us here. What worth is our mind if that is what we are all good for? Sitting here like lame ducks, sitting ducks, waiting for solutions to come from outside. Who are we? We need leaders, real leaders of free thought, to rise up in this space here. Alicia Gonzalez says, the brainwashing have Tobagonians afraid of the future. No one party should run a country, says Ian Coffey. You're all correct. You're all correct. So that there's this fear because they have not yet worked it out. I'm saying there's no Trinidad right now. We are assuming that Trinidad and Tobago is Trinidad. Trinidad has nothing. That entity doesn't exist. The entity Trinidad does not exist. Not in government. Everything there legally belongs to Trinidad and Tobago. Everything there belongs to Trinidad and Tobago. Are you with me? We now have to dissolve that state into justice so that Tobago becomes a state and Trinidad becomes a state. And I was telling a friend, an electrician friend of mine from Belgarden, in a divorce, in a separation, it is not the abused who is afraid. Because in any court, it is the one that has been abused that benefits from the separation. Follow me, fellow Tobagonians. The abuser is afraid because he was benefiting all along from the relationship. The abuser has been benefiting all along. When there is separation, the favor of the separation goes to the abused. The abused in this case is us, fellow Tobagonians. The abused. If there has to be reparation, any kind of dividing of resources, yeah, the favor comes to us. But we are not leaving Trinidad. We still have a relationship. I have family in Trinidad. Trinidadians have family here.
Correct.
So it's not a breaking up. It's just causing justice to happen. A federation is built upon the principle of cooperation, of friendship, of partnership. And this is what we are doing. We will respect each other. We will love each other. We relate from a perspective of love and respect and brotherhood. And we will never be respected here in Tobago unless we are men and women in our own story. Unless and until we are sovereign, we will not be respected. Follow me. Follow me. So Tobago and Trinidad, we're not breaking up, but we are separating government and statehood. But we are still relating to each other, now in a dignified way. So that things like inter-island transport, we set up a committee to deal with that. Things like the ports, we have a committee to deal with that. And the attitude, the perspective, the spirit now is one for the other. I want to be clear here.
Make plenty sense.
I want to be clear here. On all matters where we have to engage mutually, is one for the other. Not the spirit, that old spirit, the one of domination, the one of misunderstanding. Imagine that in this day and age, you have the power structure in Trinidad. Don't want to understand Tobagonians. They are turning a blind eye. At every turn they say, no, you can't do that. You can't do that. How disrespectful. How can you have a political party on that basis? How could such a political thought exist? Such a political thought must be illegal. Such a parliament must be illegal. Such a constitution must be illegal. Just as slavery, just as apartheid must be. It is the proponents of those thoughts that Black Stalin, the Calypsonian, wanted to put in hell. So when he says, Peter, wait, Peter, wait, look, they reach by the gate.
Yes.
Peter, wait, look.
Yes.
We have it in Tobago too.
Yes.
We have it in Trinidad. Look, they reach by the gate.
Yes.
Bon he,
Bon them.
bon she, bon he.
So
Look,
true.
Black Stalin says so. Because the ideas, the trajectory of those people were wrong. So let's, in Tobago, as we are winding down here tonight, let us be absolutely clear that we are free from bondage. And in any conversation where our status is concerned, we speak from a platform of absolute sovereignty. You don't speak from a platform of defeat, from a platform of self-negation. And you do not cooperate with victimization. A person who cooperates with his own victimization, a person who proposes his own victimization has mental health problems. Yeah. Functionally speaking, Dr. Francis Cress Welsing says such a people have mental health issues. A person who cooperates with his own self-negation, who submits to his own victimization and proposes his own victimization in her book, the ISIS Papers. She describes such a people as having mental health. She said, functionally speaking, they are mentally ill. You follow what I'm saying?
Yes, yes.
So I say to you, reject every single Tobagonian who comes to you and tell you, let us walk under Trinidad and give us some measure of autonomy and all that nonsense. What is happening here? Those people who are with Otto Charles, with A.N.R. Robinson, Otto Charles and the whole lot of them, they misunderstood. They missed it. It's only one person who was enlightened around Dr. around in Robinson. That was Dr. Winston Murray. Internal self-government is not a right. Self-government is your right. It's a God-given right. Internal self-government is not referring to geography or territory. Internal self-government is a constitutional term where you are subordinate to a higher power. You are subordinate in somebody else's constitution. That's the meaning of internal. It's not geography. Robinson asked for a measure of autonomy in order to effect that internal self-government. But the end game, the denouement, meaning to say the final plot in the story, is self-determination. The time has come. It was never to end. You have those proponents today, those who were with Robinson and misunderstood, are preaching internal self-government as the end game. No, Trinidad and Tobago had internal self-government before self-government. Self-government was attained at independence. Independence is really a colonial term. Let me say that. Independence, which is the opposite of dependence, but in English we don't say undependent, Dr. Murray, we say independent. So the word in, that's the prefix in is used to change the meaning of the word, to bring the opposite. So instead of being dependent, you are now not dependent, you are now independent. That's simple. That's simple. It's a colonial term. Because you were enslaved and colonized, you are no longer. So they now say you are independent. But the broad term is really self-government. So Britain is self-governed. France, Belgium, all those places, they are self-governed. They do not celebrate independence because they were not colonized. Are you with me, my people? This is real education here.
Exactly.
Because I've been studying this issue for a long time. So whilst I was with Dr. Winston Murray, this term, it bothered me. It bothered me. And one time I told him, I had the courage to tell him. I said, Dr. Murray, this intent is independence thing. I said, what is that really? I said, that's a colonial term. He said, yes, it is. You know what I mean? It's a colonial term. So the broad term really is self-government. Independence is used for those who have been colonized. Internal self-government is not a right. Internal self-government is the prelude. You are on your way to your full self-actualization, which is self-government, and we know it to be because you were formerly enslaved, colonized, dependent. In that, you are now not dependent, you are now independent. Your self-government. You have regained your complete self. So it is really off the mark for Tobagonians today to be saying they're looking for internal self-government. They lack the understanding. They lack the understanding. Right? I am not here conceited. I'm a down-to-earth person. And I'm bringing the information that we have. God is taking us to our promised land. He'll be setting up the nation. Right now, we need to be very sober. We need to be very sober, very mature in our speaking. As we are about to build a nation, to birth a nation. God is about to birth and formalize and dignify the people of Tobago, the nation of Tobago. God is about now to do that. And we are all in this together. And we will need all hands on deck. Let us stop fighting each other in political groups that don't even belong here. Let us stop that. We have a greater, better contribution if we can, in our utterances, in our advances, in our articulation, if we can articulate that gel of nationhood, the unity and the harmony that is necessary for a nation being birthed. If we can do that, we would have done well. Share this life to everybody. because I think this evening was a marvelous program. And if we can share this to every Tobagonian, share it with them, share the ideas, more so, even more than sharing this, you can engage from what you have gathered this evening and to tell them that we have nothing. Trinidad has nothing on us. All our economy will suddenly become ours. All. Sovereignty, independence, self-government brings all the resources available to Tobago. Independence makes us the subject in our own sentence. In a sentence with different parts of speech, the verb, the predicate, the subject, the object, and all these things. The subject is what determines the tenor of the sentence. We are now in a position to determine. And with God, all things are possible. I have learned not to lead on my own understanding. When you have crucial, in fact, all decisions to make, God is so much interested that He sent His Son to die. He is so much interested in the affairs of man. It is we that shut Him out, you know. And the loving heart of God is there, want to be part of the story, just like any father or mother wants to be part of the child's life. God is the creator. He created us for His own purpose and His own pleasure, and He wants to be part of a story. So He says, in all thy ways, in all our ways, He says, acknowledge Him, and He will direct our paths. His Son Jesus Christ came and said, not my will be done, but your will be done. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth. The earth is not ours. The earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof. The story on earth here is not ours. We didn't make the world. We did not make ourselves. We have to bow to the sovereign God. It is His will to be done. He has stepped in. He has not left us alone. Look at how He has come in with this mighty hand. And He has scattered the enemies. And He is now gelling us into a nation. Let us forget the big fight that is going on in Tobago between PDP and PNM. You are dividing Tobago at this point in time. Trust me. You are dividing Tobago at this point in time. And what is the end game of that? This big fight. What is the end game of that? I'm saying to you to recant that behavior, to turn around, kneel in prayer, in meditation, and see that it's God who has done this. The fighting is over. The time has come to merge together, to go over into a promised land and set up a nation led by people who are responsible, led by people chosen by God, led by the mature and responsible. Because it's not easy to handle power, you know. Power ain't come here, you know. It ain't easy, you know.
So true.
It is not easy to handle power, you know. And that power must be reposited in whom God has chosen. And I'm quite certain that He has chosen the people. God is not a halfway God. He has planned out the entire story. And I wish that we can have peace. We can have peace in Tobago. And that we can fulfill our dreams, our hopes, our ambitions, our aspirations. I trust that we can all achieve that every gift that God has put into our people here in Tobago can be developed, can be matured. That we can satisfy His purpose, that we can satisfy ourselves, and we can bring a great story to the world, to Trinidad and the rest of the world, that other people can learn from us. Even as we learn and we take the good from them, we must have a story for the world. And I think our number one culture in Tobago is really our culture of peace and the lack of crime and so on. We need to clean up that little bit of crime that is seeping over into our culture. We need to clean that up. We need to clean that up. I'm on 659.
Just take these comments from
And
Len Phillips.
it says here, Ian Coffey says here, Tobago people need to stand up together. We are strong. Len Phillips says, first time in James. That's a musician, Len Phillips, I believe. On point, he says. Ian Coffey says, with PDP leaders, we can do it. Well, let us hope that we have mature people in the PDP and in all of Tobago. Let us hope that we have mature, sober, faithful to Tobago and to Tobago only. But God, as I said, has chosen his people who will lead us. He will lead, but he will lead through the people that he has chosen. Let us decolonize and free ourselves. The rage that we have, let us put it aside. And listen to the words of wisdom. Listen to vision. Listen to the truth. Do not tolerate anyone that tells you you must constitute under Trinidad. Reject that. And reject them. But reject them respectfully. And let us teach them and let us be your brother's keeper in Tobago. This is 0701. I've spoken for a long time. Thank all of you who have joined me. Macmillan, Lady Max says, great program. Please remember to share the live, folks. I hope we all do. And more than sharing, let us speak this language to everyone. Let us know that it is God who has stepped in. Trust me. It is God who has this. And when he's ready, nobody can resist his will. And he will free Tobago. And I want to live in a Tobago where we respect each other and where we love each other. A Tobago that is not corrupt, where we love each other. Because this is what we really enjoy in Tobago. The harvest culture where we can go around and we can love each other. God bless you all. Thank you who have joined me on Facebook, on Instagram, on YouTube, on my own live. My brother Zaba from Rockwood, a man that I love, Zaba. He says, Brother James, I'm late. Bless up. Bless up to you too, Zaba. Enough respect. Thanks for joining. Thanks to all of you. Dr. Murray here and I, we are now peace and love. Respect.
I worship you, we'll see it. You are here, moving in our midst. I worship you, I worship you. You are here, working in this place. I worship you, I worship you. You are way maker. Yes, that is who you are. Oh, that is who you are. Come on, sing. Even when I can't see. Even when I can't see it, you're working. Even when I don't feel it, you're working. You never stop working. You never stop working. Even when I don't see it, you're working. Even when I don't feel it, you're working. You never stop. Yeah, you never stop. Yeah, I can. Even when I don't see it, you're working. Even when I don't feel it, you're working. You never stop working. You never stop. Oh, one more time. Even when I don't see it, you're working. Even when I don't feel it, you're working. You never stop. 'Cause you are waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. Oh, you are. Waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who. Oh, sing it again. You are waymaker. You are waymaker. My God, that is who you are. Oh, I know you are. You are waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. Yes, that is who you are. 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 Oh, that is who you are. That is who you are. Oh, that is who you
GLS Radio Online, 103.5 Katy Street, Buku, Tobago. Sundays, 5 to 7 p.m. Tobago Local Talent Blast. New local artists, features, interviews, local music, discovering entrepreneurs, local cultural icons with Sister G and Kezia, DJs, NT, and most supreme, Godfrey Marie. Each and every Sunday, GLS Online Radio, 103.5. Just sign in, GLS Online. Yeah, you're inside with over 65,000 viewers worldwide and growing. The new voice of Tobago's culture is here. GLS Radio. Join in the fun. Every Sunday, 7 p.m., the hottest DJ since sliced bread, DJ Scorpion. Sunday School, every Sunday on GLS Radio, 103.5.